Today we have a very special visitor at TLN Studios, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Welcome back to TLN.
No, it's great to be back. Thank you.
As we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, we are so pleased to have you here to address our viewers and, of course, all Canadians. And in the world's eyes, Canada is a very safe home for you to come with your families. That's part of the reason why my family moved here 24 years ago. Unfortunately, we have seen an increase in violent crimes in the past decade. Why do you think that has happened? And do you have any specific strategies, especially in the short term, to combat it and to combat recidivism?
Well, a big part of it has been strengthening our bail system, working with the provinces on that and making sure that people who commit crimes stay behind bars. But at the same time, one of the things that I have the most disagreement with the Conservative Party is we've moved forward in very, very real and strong ways on gun control. And they refuse to do anything on gun control. They're trying to block our desire to keep assault weapons illegal in this country. We've put a freeze on handgun purchasing. They've promised to reverse those things. You don't make Canada safer by allowing easier access to guns for criminals, and that is why we're in such disagreement with the Conservatives being in the pockets of the gun lobby.
And I have to talk about the carbon tax. Reducing emissions is, of course, a big challenge,
Yes.
but some could also see it as an opportunity. Other countries are investing billions of dollars in battery manufacturing and mining of critical minerals. What do you see as opportunities for Canada to invest in so that we stay competitive in this global transition towards a cleaner economy?
First of all, our positioning as a cleaner economy, bringing in a price on pollution, putting forward clean energy, making sure we're reducing emissions is part of why we're seeing more companies from around the world invest in Canada than in just about any other country in the world. Over the past 9 years, investment in Canada by foreign companies is up 60%. We were the top three country in the world last year for foreign direct investment, and that makes us number one for investments from overseas in the G20 per capita. So the world is very excited about Canada's leadership on climate change. We're seeing it, whether it's Volkswagen or Stellantis or Honda. We're seeing investments in critical minerals. We're seeing investments in manufacturing. We're also seeing investments in AI, in quantum, but also in energy and forestry. I mean, there's huge investments coming into Canada because we've got the right frame to both grow the economy and protect the environment. Now, one of the things, and you mentioned the price on pollution or the carbon tax, the really important thing is that everyone sees that we do have to step up on reducing emissions. And Canada has been able to reduce its emissions faster than anywhere else of our G7 counterparts. But the way we're doing it is by making sure that the heaviest burden is not being carried by the middle class. When people pay a price on pollution in provinces like Ontario, they also get back a Canada carbon rebate, which gives them more money than on average the price on pollution would have cost them at the pump and in heating their homes and everything. So if they actually reduce or make smarter choices for a slightly more fuel efficient car or an electric vehicle that they choose to buy or take transit more, they actually get more money because they pay less of the price on pollution. It's about putting more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians with the Canada carbon rebate and fighting climate change at the same time. And that's something that the world has been looking at Canada as a leader in doing that because we're effective in fighting climate change and we're effective at putting more money in the pockets of Canadians.
And you mentioned the rising cost of living, and that's something that a lot of people have been discussing in Canada lately. Yeah. Some people may blame it on immigration. Other people bring that up in conversation. And as an immigrant myself, I want to know, do you think that there is an immigration problem in Canada, and what is the solution?
Well, one of the great things that we have in our immigration system is, first of all, in general, Canadians are positive about immigration. There are worries about it right now because of housing prices and services, but Canadians remain positive towards immigration because we know it is a source of growth for our country. It's also a very flexible program. In the years following the pandemic, in the 2 or 3 years following the pandemic, there was a real need for more temporary foreign workers, more international students to get our economy going again, and we let in a lot of them. Now, the economy's shifted, there's less of a need, we want more jobs for Canadians, we're going to simply reduce the number of temporary foreign workers so that Canadians can continue to have confidence in our immigration system while we take off the stresses that are on the system right now. So as we will be talking about in the coming weeks, we're bringing a different profile and holding a little bit on the immigration numbers right now so that we can make sure that housing catches up, make sure that our services catch up before we're able to continue to go through immigration in the coming years.
And housing is a huge issue. I mean, younger generation, new Canadians, it seems like affording a home is impossible. What do you attribute that change in affordability to?
You know, I've had a lot of conversations with older Canadians who said, oh no, it's always hard to buy your first home. I had to save up for a whole bunch of years and I had to get help from mom or dad and had to get a loan from the bank, had to do that. It's always tough. Young people today just need to understand that it's always going to be difficult to buy a home. And what I try to tell these older Canadians is, it's not that it's difficult, it's that it's almost impossible right now. Something has fundamentally changed in the math, and it's not just in Canada, all around the world, where young people are feeling that no matter how much they save, housing prices remain out of reach even after 5 years of saving. So we had to change the dynamic on that. That's why our last budget was focused on fairness for every generation. The idea of asking wealthier Canadians, including people from an older generation who've done very well, anyone who's making more than $250,000 a year in capital gains should be paying a little more so that we can invest in building more housing for young people, so we can invest in $10 a day childcare for young families, so we can invest in dental care that's going to help the most vulnerable and seniors, so we can invest in pharmacare that's going to deliver free insulin to people who need it and prescription contraceptives to women across the country. These are the kinds of things that actually take pressure off the daily budget and the weekly budget of a household, while at the same time we've invested more in pushing cities and provinces to change the way they build housing so that we can accelerate the affordable rental housing, the affordable homes that are being built, more density to respond and to, in the coming years, show young people that there is a path towards home ownership. That's what we're doing. And it takes investments and it takes programs that we're investing in. And that's a point of disagreement that we have with the Conservative Party and the Conservative Party leader, who says we shouldn't be investing in housing, we shouldn't be investing in dental care, we shouldn't be investing in pharmacare, we shouldn't be investing in childcare because we can't afford it. Well, right now we have the lowest deficit and one of the strongest economies in the G7, in the advanced nations around the world. We need to set that strong economy in service of young Canadians and of Canadians by investing in programs that are going to help them with affordability, and that's what we're focused on.
And you mentioned capital gains tax.
Yes.
Do you worry at all that this will make certain Canadians not want to invest, not want to start a small business, not want to take risks, not want to contribute to the Canadian economy because they feel like there's less incentive or maybe they're being punished?
I've heard a lot of wealthier people say, oh, you're raising my taxes, we're going to be investing less. The problem with the argument they're making, because they don't want to make slightly smaller profits in order to ensure that young people are successful, the problem with the argument they're making is capital gains have changed many times over the past few decades. They've been as high as 75%, down to 50%, back in different places, and it has never had any impact on whether people invest more or invest less. One of the things we're trying to say is, look, if you're making a profit of more than $250,000 in any given year, you can pay a little bit more on the profits above $250,000 to make sure that people who can't afford their homes right now, who are having trouble paying their rent, who are having trouble buying groceries for their kids, can get a little bit more success. So yes, we're asking the people who have done very well to contribute a little more, but we know that it's necessary to give young people that chance to succeed. And that's where I'm in a big disagreement with Mr. Poilievre, who doesn't think we should be asking the wealthiest to pay a little more, where I say, no, we have to be investing in our young people.
And I think it has to do a lot with public perception. Like, I'll tell you from the Hispanic Canadian side, Hispanic Canadians are 37% more likely than the general population to be small business owners. Should they be worried? Because I think that there is a general sentiment to panic.
The vast majorities of small businesses will not see $250,000 in capital gain profits in any given year. They are hardworking. They build a strong future for themselves, and we're there actually in ways that are concretely supporting them. Whether with the lowest small business tax rate in the OECD or among peer countries, or whether it's a recent move we did to reduce credit card fees for small businesses to be sure that they can keep more of the hard work that they're doing, the benefits of the hard work that they're doing. We'll always be there to support small businesses. The capital gains issue is there to primarily hit the most wealthy Canadians and not small businesses, because we know that small businesses do well when their customers and clients have a little more money in their pockets to be able to pay for the work they're doing.
What is it that you value in Canadian media, and how do you plan to support ethnic voices?
Well, first of all, to be very specific, ethnic media has never been as important as it is right now. The way you tell, yes, stories in language and of countries of origin, but more importantly, the way you tell the Canadian stories in a way that connects with people who may not speak as great English or French as others and want to see it in their own perspectives. That's a way not just of highlighting things that are important to them, but of bringing Canadians together in a shared identity, in shared values, come at from so many different perspectives. And we've seen how the digital transformation of our media ecosystems has been a huge challenge, particularly for smaller outlets. One of the things that we saw over the past years is big web giants like Google and Meta have been negotiating with sort of the big media companies, whether it's CTV or CBC or Toronto Star or whatever, to use their content and to make deals with them. They were completely leaving out ethnic media, small community voices, rural newsrooms. And what we did by moving forward on Online News Act is we're forcing Google, for example, to negotiate with even the smallest ethnic outlets as equals so that we can make sure that there is opportunity for ethnic media to thrive. That's why we're still in a fight with Meta, for example, because they want to use your content and not have to pay for it. And we know that keeping strong, vibrant voices in community media alive requires being able to pay people salaries, being able to do the research and the investigative reporting that is so important in this day and age where there's so much unreliable information out there. There's so much misinformation, disinformation that we get online. Having professional journalists able to tell people's stories back to them and put them in context is more important than it's ever been, and that's why we're always going to be there to support ethnic media.
Well, those discussions that you mentioned with Meta, unfortunately, they have harmed a lot of small independent broadcasters such as ourselves. We no longer have access to those accounts, and it does impact a revenue stream and the ability to reach a wider audience. Are there any short-term strategies in place to try and support those people that are affected by this blocking?
Well, we have been trying to, and we have been investing in direct supports for media. The challenge we have, and I've heard that a number of times, that, oh no, Meta's blocking us. Yes, they're trying to do that because they want to use your content without paying you for it. And we've told them, no, you can't use people's content without paying for it. So they had no choice but to block. What we are working with them to do instead is to actually choose to pay you for your content, because you're creating important news and stories that people want to share, and Meta, that makes billions of dollars of profits a year, doesn't want to share any of it with you or the newsroom that is driving things. So this is a point where Canada is taking a stand similar to Australia, but we're going even further, and countries around the world are watching the way we are standing up to these web giants and demanding that they put people and journalism first so that we can actually ensure a strong democracy, not just for this year and next year, but for decades to come in a world that is in big changes.
And I don't want to stay on this topic for too long, but do you think that puts us at a competitive disadvantage with other countries that aren't doing this?
Well, what we're seeing in other countries is small media outlets are closing. much faster than they are in Canada. People are not able to have those online presences. So by forcing Meta to recognize the professional work that journalists do, we're going to be able to strengthen our democracy and support you for the long term in the work that you're doing.
I want to go back to the global stage for a second. In 2015, there was a promise to make Canada important again in the world stage, and Canada has been unable to secure a spot in the UN Security Council. What policy steps are you hoping to take to make Canada once again a more relevant player in the world's eyes?
Well, actually, Canada has done a tremendous job over the past years of taking a more significant role on the world stage in many, many different ways. Yes, we continue to believe in multilateralism and work hard through the UN to have that impact, but we're also present at the G7 table, at the Commonwealth, at the Francophonie, in APEC, at the G20. We're hosting the G7 next year, which is going to be an opportunity to bring the advanced economies of the world together, to talk about AI, where Canada is a leader, to talk about dealing with the challenges to the international rules-based order. When China arbitrarily detains Canadians, when Russia is funding misinformation and disinformation in right-wing media across the country, when India is threatening the very safety of Canadians in their homes, Canada has and will continue to step up to stand for the rules that protect not just Canadians, but everyone around the world. Canada has carved itself a very important voice on the world stage right now, and we're going to continue to be there for that. We actually one of the few countries in the world that has a free trade deal with all G7 countries. Actually, we're the only G7 country with a free trade deal with all G7 countries. We've been stepping up on the international stage, and we're going to continue to.
And I'm mindful of your time, so I do just want to ask a couple more questions, more on the personal side. Your government has faced praise and criticism. What do you think is the biggest misconception about you?
I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about people's conceptions or misconceptions. I'm very much focused on doing the work that's going to make a difference in Canadians' lives. I got into public service to serve, to build opportunities for Canadians. I come to political service as a teacher. That was how I was making a difference in the world as a young man, and now my ability to continue to bring Canadians together and solve for the big challenges we're facing is what drives me every single day, and is going to continue to. So I think a lot of Canadians get that, and we're going to continue to put forward real solutions that make a difference in their lives.
And we rarely get to see, a personal side of world leaders. What would you say is the one thing you are the most proud of and your biggest regret as Prime Minister of Canada?
One of the things I'm most proud of is the Canada Child Benefit. It puts hundreds of dollars a month in the pockets of families, tax-free, that actually need it, that send kids to school in new shoes or better lunches, or allows money for after-school programs. It's about empowering parents with money that they need to be able to give the best opportunities to their kids. And that's something that's making a real difference in people's lives right now, but will also be felt in the success that those kids will be able to have when they grow up. And for me, the things that are most important are the things that have a long duration over the life of the country, the things you do that really shape the country for the better. Of course, on that I had a great example in my dad, who understood that multiculturalism and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms were things that would set up Canada for success for decades to come. And I'm looking at making sure that the things that we do have an impact for the better for Canadians for generations to come.
And what would the biggest regret be?
I'll let the media try to decide that. I'm focused on the good things that we're doing.
And lastly, you were elected in 2015 on a wave of momentum of Canadians that want to change. That momentum seems to be shifting, but I do want to give you that opportunity. Why should Canadians trust in your leadership in this next election?
Well, I think pausing for a second on the fact that people are saying, oh, this is a change election. Yes, this election is going to be about change. because there's change all around us, whether it's climate change, whether it's the changing world of work with digital, with AI, whether it's changing geopolitics and a more dangerous world we're in. People don't get to choose whether they want change or not. They just have to choose what is the right answer to that change. And unfortunately, what Mr. Poilievre is putting forward as a vision for change is very much predicated on not fighting climate change, on not investing in programs that are going to support Canadians through the difficult times we're in, like dental care or pharmacare or child care. There is a choice about what we do to help each other and invest in our future, because quite frankly, I've always understood that confident countries, Canada is that, invest in themselves. And anyone who's saying that, oh, Canada's broken and it's just everything's wrong, is not thinking about how to make the country that everyone needs it to be. And that's what I'm staying focused on.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister, for your time.
Always a pleasure, Camila.